Good morning, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for coming to our November edition of our Science Communication webinar. My name is Heather Evans. I chair the research committee that coordinates this webinar, and I will be moderating today's presentation. As usual, we'll ask that you keep your cameras off and your mics muted. And today we have Christina Watkins and Josh Jernigan, and they're going to be presenting about a recent survey that was conducted at our shooting ranges and how they use that data to implement changes. Josh is our shooting range facilities manager. He's been with us for about 8 years, and Christina has been with us for 3 years, but recently took on a new role as the social research coordinator. So welcome to both of you, and I will turn the time over to you all. Oh, one other reminder, as you have questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat, and we'll get a chance to ask those questions at the end. All right, Josh, it's all you.
Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody had a good holiday weekend. So as discussed, we're going to talk a little bit about the shooting ranges today, and then just kind of what we're using data-wise to improve our ranges. So I'll go ahead and get started. So I wanted to start off with just kind of where the shooting ranges came from, how it kind of started. So target shooting used to be allowed on most of the shooting range, or sorry, most of the game lands. And so, as you can see from this picture on the right-hand side, it was causing a lot of damage. We were shooting up trees. We were causing a lot of damage to the game lands. And so then the idea came around to let's start building some shooting ranges. There was a lot of federal funds out at the time, and so it seemed like a really good idea. So there were a lot of safety concerns of people just shooting on the game lands. We all know now in North Carolina, it's very, very difficult to find anywhere where somebody's not building a house, anywhere, honestly. And so people building all these neighborhoods and stuff around the game lands are becoming an issue. Not being able to do lead abatement was also a problem. We wanted to make sure we were being stewards of the environment also, so we were very concerned about not being able to clean up the lead that was being shot on the game lands. Then we also wanted to have educational outreach opportunities that could be added by us having a place for people to come. So this is a map of North Carolina where we currently have our shooting ranges. So we currently have 10 overall. We have 6 managed by NCWRC, meaning that we have full-time staff at these facilities running them for the public. We have 4 partnership ranges. As you can look at the legend, we have it broke down into 3 different categories. NCWRC managed, which is us, county partnerships, which is us working with the county governments, and then partnership, which is currently with the YMCA. So if you can kind of see, we are covered pretty good. We're represented all over the place. Some of our larger ranges, the John Lentz Hunter Education Complex in Richmond County is one of our largest outdoor ranges that we manage. Foothills Public Shooting Complex is the largest range that we have in general that's ran by a partnership. And then we have the Wake County Indoor Range located in Wake County. So it is the only indoor range that we currently have with the Wildlife Commission. So our goal has always been to try to have a shooting range 30 to 50 miles within everybody. As you can see on this map right here, we do a pretty good job. We still have some holes, mainly on the coast, a couple in the mountains. We are working really hard to try to fill these holes. It is, yet again, as I stated earlier, very, very difficult to find a place that we can build these shooting ranges. We have a great team out there in engineering that helps us find these locations, and then we run sound studies, environmental impact studies. There's a lot that goes into it, and it is actually very difficult to find a suitable place to build a shooting range, believe it or not. So like I said, you can kind of see where we're covering. We do cover most of the state. We do have some spots on the coast, but like I said, we are currently working on that. So I kind of also wanted to talk a little bit how the ranges operate. So currently the ranges that we manage are free to come and use. Flintlock is the only exception. It is on federal land, so the federal park system does charge to use that facility. All of our partnership ranges do charge a small fee in order to use that. It helps offset their cost. But if you come to one of our facilities that we are managing, they are free currently. So how this works is you come in, you check in at the range safety office. You'll have a staff member there to greet you. They'll ask if you've been here before. If you haven't, then they'll say, okay, great, have a seat. You'll sit down, you'll watch a 7 minutes range safety video. The video basically covers how the ranges operate, what you can and can't do, what hot and cold means, just the terminology. So when you're out there, you know what they're talking about. So once you watch that video, you are issued a range pass card. It's good for 1 year. It looks like a little business card. It'll have your name on it. It'll have the RSO signature, and it'll have an expiration date. So like I said, that card's good for a year. You come back out to us. They'll ask for that card. You show it to them. You go, you sign back in on the waiver. We do have iPads located at all of our facilities. We do have Smart Waiver. Smart Waiver collects the waiver itself for liability. And then we also collect other data within Smart Waiver too. After you do all this, you go and enjoy the range. So talking a little bit about that Smart Waiver. So some of the data that we do collect while we use Smart Waiver is emails, names, zip codes, gender, ethnicities, waiver. We more recently have started asking if they have a hunting license, what type of hunting license do they have? Just trying to gather some more information about who's using our facilities and what we can do better to accommodate these people. We also asked how they want to interact with us, get newsletters, email notifications, so on and so forth. And that's been interesting, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the presentation. So, ranges by the numbers. So I do like to always add a little bit of information about usage. So as you can see here, the Wake Indoor Range sees the most by double. It is located in Wake County. It is an indoor range. The weather doesn't affect it. You can run it all the time. It does run every weekend, so you can stay open later. It is very nice. So then we do have the John Lentz Hunter Education Complex, sees about the second most people. That 5,613 just represents the public coming to use it. It does not cover all the events that are held at Lentz. Lentz probably sees maybe another 5,000 people or a little bit more just during events. It does host the district YHS tournament, the state YHS tournament, the regional 4-H tournament. It also hosts the state 4-H tournament also, with countless other events like National Hunt and Fishing Day and other events that we have going on throughout the year. So we also do collect gender. So we kind of like to know who's coming, if it's mainly males, females. We do like to know this information. As you can kind of see from the chart, we're pretty even across the board. Our average is 80% male use and then 14% female use. We have been trying to increase female usage by offering these basic classes that we're going to talk about a little bit later. If you look at the pictures on the right-hand side, this is one of the classes that we're piloting at Cold Mountain, where basically we have a firearms expert that will stay there, and then from about 9 to 1 or 9 to 11, they allow people to come up and they just give them suggestions and help them learn how to shoot. So it's kind of like you come, you shoot, they're just there to help you, tips and tricks. And that's been wildly successful for us also. So we did want to cover a little bit about the funding. So the Pittman-Robertson Wildlife Restoration Act is the #1 funding source for the shooting ranges. So it was passed in 1937. The legislation took an existing excise tax on firearms and reallocated it, the proceeds, to the grant fund for state agents or state wildlife agencies. So what this does is this allows us to apply for federal grants and use matching for federal funds to help fund the shooting ranges and various other things within wildlife. So neat little fact, since 1939, when the act was made, it's generated over $22.5 billion. So where does the money come from? So this is kind of more of a breakdown onto where that money comes from. So handguns, they're taxed at 10%. I think that's 3.3 billion is what they generally will generate towards the economics. So 10% of that is what's taxed. Other firearms, 11%, which that includes long guns, generates about 2.3 billion. Shotguns, 2.6, muzzleloading, 368 million. Ammunition's at 11%, and there's about $15 billion worth of ammunition sold a year. Firearm parts and accessories, 11%, 9.5 billion. Archery equipment around 11% taxed. So just alone in 2022, the excise tax amounted to over $1.1 billion for federal funds for state wildlife agencies. A big thing I also like to talk about this part too is the majority of the PR funds do not come from hunting related purchases. Most of this is recreational shooters, shooting sports. And so they make up about a little over 80% of this total fund comes from recreational shooters. So the economic impact. So like I stated before, firearms generate about $9.5 billion a year, ammunition, $15.5 billion, optics, $9.5 billion, trip related spending, so gas, food, so on and so forth, $11.7 billion. Fees, which would be what people pay to use shooting ranges, about $7.5 billion, equipment, $1.9 billion, and then other $2.7 billion, which generally is about $61.2 billion. This was in for 2022. So little fun thing about that. So the NFL only generated $12 billion in 2022. So it's about, so what was that? About 5 times more than the NFL did in 2022. So pretty cool to talk about and see. So this is just kind of a breakdown of how many people are using or target shooters across the country. So this is about 23 million handgun users, about 18.5 million shotgun users, 17.9 million rifle users, about 4.8 million muzzle loaders, and about 9 million air gun users. So about 39.6 million total target shooters in the United States. And then I'm going to turn this over to Catherine and let her talk about the survey that they conducted that helped us move forward with our program.
Hi, yeah. So I will be talking about a survey that Josh and his team wanted to sort of get into motion back in 2023. They came with several different goals that they wanted for a survey. They wanted to talk to range users really and get some information from them on different aspects related to range management, as well as getting to know the range users. So there were several objectives for the survey. Some of them had sort of more immediate use, like getting the evaluating satisfaction and experiences with the ranges, getting feedback on amenities and programs, determining preferences for hours of operation. And then some of them were more, to kind of gauge and do a temperature check on some issues around the ranges, like gathering feedback about charging fees. Another main objective for the survey, they wanted to kind of get to know the range users. Josh presented all the great data that they collect on a regular basis, but we were able to ask some more in-depth questions about why they participate in range, shooting range, using the ranges, and what other activities they participate in. So we were able to sort of answer all these questions for them through this project. Josh, if you can skip it forward.
Oop.
This is going to be tricky because Josh has the power over here. So as far as how we went about doing the survey, we collected the survey via an online questionnaire. Again, thanks to the great data they collect, they have all these emails for all the range users. So we were able to send out 8,000 surveys to 8,000 individuals who used the ranges, who had used them in the last year, and who had agreed to be contacted by the agency. So almost 2,000 completed the survey, so that was about a 24% response rate. On to the next. Yeah. So again, getting into some of the results here, we asked about some aspects of feedback about the ranges. So we asked how satisfied range users were with all these different aspects. And as you can see, people are pretty satisfied overall. The green and the yellow bars there are both in the satisfied camp. So the most things that brought the most satisfaction were things related to the staff. So they thought that staff were very friendly, helpful, and knowledgeable. And they thought that the safety procedures were also great with the ranges. Some of the things that were only slightly lesser, lesser ratings of satisfaction were things like the opening hours, which we'll address in a minute, and availability of open lanes. We next asked about various amenities and programs that were being considered to be offered at the ranges. And this chart shows the percentage of folks that wanted these different programs. So as you can see, the things that wanted the most were classes, whether that was basic or advanced pistol classes, basic or advanced rifle classes. People wanted to see classes at the ranges, followed by competitions, retail, archery lanes, and things that were listed under other were things like restrooms and more parking. They next wanted to know about the operating hours. I believe before this survey went out, the ranges sort of had all different operating hours based on, I don't know, staff availability or other things. So they kind of wanted to standardize the opening hours for the ranges. And in order to do this, we asked this question. We gave them about 3 different options, 2 different standardized options, as well as the option to leave things how they are. As you can see, the one that was the most preferred was that Wednesday to Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then Sundays from noon to 5. And then the one that was the least popular was leaving things how they are. So people seemed to be in favor of standardizing those hours, and I think they chose the one that y'all ended up going with. We also asked about how folks want to receive news from the ranges. Overwhelmingly, people wanted an email newsletter over other things like updates on the agency's website or text alerts. So that's a pretty straightforward one. Next, ask about willingness to pay for range access. Like Josh mentioned, all the ranges, with some exceptions, are free to use. But there's always been sort of a question of whether we could charge for ranges or how range users would feel about a fee being charged in order to improve maintenance and run the ranges like we need to. So again, this was phrased in a very much this isn't happening, don't panic, but we just kind of want to gauge how acceptable would these fees be to you. So the range users found that a $5 entrance fee was the most acceptable, 51% of folks saying that was either acceptable or very acceptable to them. That was followed by a $50 annual pass, $10 daily entrance fee, hunting license, and a $75 annual pass. You can kind of see that they go from most acceptable to least acceptable in terms of the amount of money that's being charged, with the exception of the hunting license. In the question that was asked in the survey, it made it very clear that the minimum license that you would need was a $25 annual hunting license. At the time of the survey, it was $25. I know things have changed, but so that price of $25 was in the survey. And you can see there that even though that is cheaper than the $50 annual pass, it had about half as much acceptability as a $50 annual pass. So that was kind of interesting to see there. Go on to the next. So we then asked this long follow-up, which you can feel free to read while I'm talking here. But this is word for word was in the survey, and it basically describes the federal match that state agencies receive when individuals buy a license from us. So that's a fishing license, hunting, or any other licenses for the agency. And an example was provided that if someone purchases a $25 annual hunting license, that can create a return of up to $75 for the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission to set aside expressly for fish and wildlife conservation. So that was kind of put in there to gauge their knowledge or their interest in that aspect. Because I think it's been discussed in state agencies across the US really, when charging fees for different things, is if people knew that there was this federal match and that went to wildlife and fisheries conservation, then people would be more willing to buy a license from us. That some folks might be more willing to buy a license from us than others. So we asked that for the shooting ranges. And we asked whether that information, knowing this information, whether that changes their level of acceptability with purchasing a hunting license for entry to the ranges. So you can see from here that about half of the respondents, it didn't change their opinion at all. But that's mixed in with people that said that they were accepting of it in the first place. 41% found it more acceptable to purchase a hunting license after reading that statement. So it changed the minds of about 41% of respondents. And then there's kind of the inexplicable 6% who found it less acceptable afterwards. Maybe they were less interested in conservation than the specific activity they were working on. And I don't have this chart up here, but we did run the numbers by those who had first said it was unacceptable. So those who at first said they would not buy a hunting license, then they read the statement. 30% of those people changed their mind to, be more willing to buy a hunting license. So about 70% of people didn't change their mind, and it didn't help flip their stance on things. But for 30% of people, knowing that statement, knowing about the federal match did help, and did make them more willing to buy a license. We also asked respondents to explain their thinking after this question. For those who didn't change their mind after, and the number one comment was just that I don't hunt. I don't hunt, so why would I buy a hunting license? So there's this kind of block that people couldn't get over, that they wouldn't buy a hunting license because they don't hunt. And even if it helps to give money for conservation and they want to use the ranges, it didn't work in their, in their thinking. So they wouldn't do it either way. So all things to keep in mind for the future. Can roll on to the next. Then we, asked some questions about getting to know the range users. We wanted to know what other wildlife associated activities they participate in. Most range users participate in fishing, hiking, camping, some do hunting, boating, wildlife watching, and all various types of activities. Go on to the next. And then we asked about their motivations for participating in target shooting and using the ranges. This chart shows all of the respondents to the survey in green, and then we singled out those who said that they are hunters to kind of compare and see what the motivations are for regular or, general range users and those who are hunters and range users. For both groups, improving their skill and ability, improving marksmanship, and because it's fun, rated as the top motivations for participating in the ranges. The big difference you'll see here is that hunters use the ranges to prepare for hunting season compared to the other group. And another big difference you'll see is the social aspect. So the question or the items that had to do with being with friends and family, keeping family traditions alive, those were more important for the hunters than they were for the general respondents. So that was another interesting difference to see there. Going on to the next. And so we lastly, I believe, asked for interest in hunting. So we asked range users if they have an interest in going hunting or learning how to hunt. About half said no, but the other half said yes or maybe. Then we followed up with those yeses and maybes to ask, would you like to receive information about learning to hunt? Where a good chunk of them said yes or maybe to that. And then there was a second question we followed up with about whether they would attend a class at the range they use most often. And about 87% of those who said they were interested in hunting but didn't actually hunt right now said that they would attend a class or an event at the range that they use the most often. So that's kind of interesting potential to get folks into hunting through the ranges. I'll hand it over to Josh here. He can talk about how they took results from the survey and made some changes to the ranges based on those results.
All right, everybody, I'm back. I know y'all missed me. We, with all this information that we've been gathering through our own means and through the survey, we really did take this and run with it. We started doing basic pistol classes, basic rifle classes. We are working on adding advanced classes also that takes a little bit of time to kind of develop and roll out. It made us go back and think about our future range designs, trying to add bathroom facilities, trying to add more classroom space to teach these classes so they don't interfere with range operations. So it really has changed our thought process on range design and stuff moving forward. We did end up changing our operating hours to what was requested. So we are now open Wednesday through Sunday, which has been wonderful. A lot of people were really into being open on Sundays. So now we're open 2 days a week on the weekend instead of closed on Sundays. We did go back and add more monthly challenges for people. So when they come to the range, they have something fun to do, not just, sight the rifles in and leave. They actually have something they can practice for and compete with. And then we also have hunting classes and stuff that are being held mainly at the Lentz facility that Deke James is doing. And so we did listen to a lot of the stuff in the survey and have actively gone to try to make the range program better for our users based off this information that we were given.
Josh, I think you muted yourself somehow.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. Let me start that over. So I always like a lot of pictures. Pictures tell great stories. And so I kind of wanted to add a lot of pictures on here and then tell some stories about what we've got going on. So these are two gentlemen that competed and won their monthly challenge. So what that is we do different monthly theme challenges at all the ranges. You can kind of see on the left-hand picture, that's an example. That was October. They shoot pumpkins. So you go out, there's a rules based on it, distance, what you can and can't do. And then you go out there and you compete to try to win these patches. We do have patches for every month. We have different categories. There's a pistol. So you win a pistol patch. There's rifle, and then there's a 22 patch. So the one on the right hand was done at Flintlock, and he completed the October challenge. The one on the right completed the January challenge, which was the washer challenge, which was done at Lentz. So here's another challenge that was held at Lentz facility. All ages come and compete in these challenges. Like I said, you just show up that day and do it. You're allowed to participate in it one time a day. So if you don't get it the first day, come back the next. On the right-hand side is an example of all the patches that people can get for completing these challenges. The top row is the 22 challenge patches. The middle row are for pistol, and then the bottom row is for rifle. So we try to make it where whatever you're coming to shoot, you can do and enjoy. So this is just a couple pictures, some range stories that we get constantly. The photo on the left, this was their first time shooting together at any range. Father and son came out to shoot. So that was a lot of fun, getting to hear that story about them coming out to shoot for the first time together and how much they enjoyed it. The picture on the right-hand side was they came out to shoot and sight their rifle in for squirrel hunting. So it was the first time they were going hunting together. So that was just a really neat story also to hear from the public coming out and using these facilities. For two separate reasons. The one on the left was just there to shoot and get familiar with firearms, and the one on the right was sighting in a rifle to go hunting with. So we try to be very active in the shooting range community and get out there. So the picture on the left, an example, we go to a lot of gun shows and set up booths and just let everybody know what we offer and who we are and talk about the ranges. I believe this one was up at Cold Mountain towards Asheville. So like I said, we go and we try to participate in a lot of this stuff. The photo on the right-hand side was a community event that was held at Lentz. I think this was the Chamber of Commerce was coming out to visit local areas and stuff like that to kind of get the name out. We also do a lot of stuff. Our partnership ranges do a lot too. The Foothills shooting range, they host the National Glock tournaments held there. So we send staff there every year to go and compete and to also set a booth up and talk to all these people coming around about what we do and what we offer. SIG is coming there this year. They do a lot of national archery events there. So, like I said, we try to be very active and get out in the community as much as we can for the shooting sports, just to let people know that we have this awesome resource that's there for them. And that is it.
Hey, thank you both for that great presentation. We have a question waiting. So let's see. Jeff Ferguson said there are 4 shooting ranges on USFS lands in the mountain region. WRC has provided assistance with improvements at these sites, but they are regularly maintained and operated by USFS. Are those considered partnership ranges, and should there also be listed on our sites and included on our maps?
So they used to be partnership ranges. There was some stuff we did to try to get those designs done. It never really came all the way through fruition. We were asked to help them redesign some of those ranges, and then it kind of stalled out. So it was made to take them off of the shooting range map for the time being.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if anyone else has any questions, feel free to go ahead and drop those into the chat as well. I'm going to ask one. Josh, did you come across any challenges as you went through the process of gathering and then using the data to implement changes at the shooting ranges?
Oh, there's always challenges. External challenges, internal challenges. Getting the staff to buy on board with what we're trying to do was a big thing. Asking them to change their schedules up that they've had for 5 years. Asking them to start working on Sundays. They're not used to that. And then about anything we do, we make 60% of the people happy with changing the hours, and then we upset the other 40% because they like to come in on Tuesday, and now they can't come in on Tuesdays anymore. And then just in general, just trying to get everything done internally and getting signs made. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that's difficult, and that's just talking about changing hours. I mean, so like I said, that's just one aspect of it. But there's always challenges that kind of roll through, and it's the little things that a lot of people don't even think about. Like I said, just getting signs made, just little things like that.
That's good insight. Thanks. Michael Winstead asked, is there an age limit for kids starting out at the range?
So we currently do not have a age limit. There are rules around it. So if you're under a certain age, you have to have like one-on-one supervision. So if you're under 16, your parents have to be within arm's length of you at all times. You're not allowed to go there if you're under 18 by yourself without an adult. The Wake County shooting range has a different age limit because it is an indoor shooting range, and the county wanted to have an age limit, and I believe it is 12. Nobody under 12 is allowed to shoot at the Wake range.
Okay. Joe Folta said, if we start charging a fee, would those funds be earmarked for maintenance of current ranges, purchase of new ranges, or put into the general fund?
That question's way above me. I'll be honest with you. Generally, they will make their way back to the range program in some fashion. So it would help no matter what, but I'm not really versed on how the budgeting side of things would work.
Okay. I was also wondering if, having done the survey and implemented the changes in this round, if you have plans for a second round survey, or if there are questions that you wish you would have included.
Oh, that's a great question. I'm sure we will conduct another survey at some point, just in a couple of years, probably just to see where we're at, if we're doing things better, if we didn't, if we need to adjust. So I'm sure that will come down. To be honest with you, question-wise, off the top of my head, I can't think of one. I'm sure there is. Is like I said, off the top of my head, I can't think of one.
All right. Oh, I think we just got one more in. Let's see. Yes, Hannah Plumpton said, are there plans to expand the facilities of the current ranges? And if so, what is the estimated timeline?
Great question. So don't get me started about the range, the expansions and stuff. I could talk all day. But yes, we are actively working on a couple right now. The Caswell Shooting Range, which is north of Durham in Caswell County, is the next one in line to get a major rehaul. And our goal is to revamp that one completely. It has it runs at max capacity majority of the time, meaning it is not big enough to handle the number of people that are going there. You have to go and wait an hour in line sometimes just to get out there to shoot. There's not enough parking. We've got cars lined up everywhere. And so that was identified, and we are actively working on getting that range redesigned and rebuilt. And so it'll be about 3 times the size as it is now. Trying to add some more elements to it, trying to add shotgun range to it, trying to make archery a little bit more friendly out there. Redoing the office out there will be huge. We are actively trying to redo or put offices at all of our facilities. So that way we are capable of running the ranges and doing classes all at the same time. We can't currently do that at most of our shooting ranges. Our offices are like storage sheds converted into offices. So most of them are singular rooms that you come and check into. So we are actively working on getting all these infrastructure pieces in place for these expansions. And then, like I said, as the data comes in and as the numbers change, we just kind of know what we need to add and not add. And then you run into certain places like Cold Mountain. Cold Mountain's in the mountains. We can't really expand. We can't add lanes or add ranges up there. We're on solid rock on top of a mountain. It's beautiful, but you just can't add so much in certain ranges.
Right. I'm not seeing any other questions come in. So I just want to say another thank you to Josh and Christina for presenting today and informing us about the shooting ranges and the work that's been going on there to improve those. And thanks to everyone who came to listen and ask questions. We will put a recording of this on our YouTube channel, and we'll send an email out when that is ready to be viewed. Next month, come join us when Corey Dunn from the NC State Co-op Unit will be presenting work on network approaches to freshwater conservation in southeastern rivers. And if anyone out there is interested in giving a presentation at one of these seminars, feel free to reach out to me and we can get you on the schedule. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.